Kia ora everyone, I am Ahmed Mohi, and this is IaaS, and today I'll show you how to set up your first virtual machine on Microsoft Azure. So, let's dive in. In this video, I'll show you how to get a Microsoft account, an Azure subscription, and how to use your Azure subscription to build your first virtual machine. We can access Microsoft Azure portal using the URL portal.azure.com. And upon loading, you'll be prompted to log in with a Microsoft account. A Microsoft account is just an email address that ends with hotmail.com, msn.com, live.com, or outlook.com. It could even be an Xbox account. If you have any of these accounts, then you already have a Microsoft account. If you don't, you can easily create a new one from the Azure portal login page. Click on Create One, and then click on Get an email address to get an email address and a Microsoft account for Microsoft to send you updates and notifications about your Azure account. Pick up an email address and click Next. Create a password and click Next. Type in the CAPTCHA challenge and click Next. And with that, we've just logged into Microsoft Azure portal. We can either take the tour or explore the portal ourselves and click Maybe Later. To start using Azure services, we need to have an Azure subscription. For that, we'll start with a free trial. This will give us access to 12 months of popular free services, a $200 credit to spend on Azure services, and a 25 plus always free services, as we can see here. To start our free trial, click Start, which will open up a sign-up page for us to start filling our details, like our country, our name, phone, email address, and credit card details. Though we don't need to worry about charges, as this is a free trial and there are no upfront charges or fees. Once you finish, click I agree and subscribe to Azure newsletter if you like. You can also read the subscription agreement, the offer details, and the privacy policy. When you finish, click Sign Up. Microsoft Azure will now prepare our Azure subscription for us, and when finished, we'll land on the QuickStart Centre. We'll not use the QuickStart Centre for now, as I want to show you how to create our virtual machine from the main dashboard. Click Home to go to the main dashboard, and we can create our virtual machine by either clicking on the virtual machine icon, and if it's not there, we can use the search bar to look up virtual machines. This will take us to the virtual machine blade, and as we can see now, we don't have any virtual machine, so let's change that. Click on the Add button to create a new virtual machine, which will open up Virtual Machine Blade. We'll fill up our virtual machine details now. So for subscription, we'll choose free trial. For a resource group, which is a logical grouping of all our resources that belong to a project or to a team, we'll create a new one as we don't have one yet. Click OK when you give your resource group a name. And then in here, we'll put the virtual machine name. And next we'll choose which data center region we want to host our virtual machine in. In this case, it's East US. And next, the availability option, as in what redundancy you want to give the machine. We'll just leave it to no, as it's a free trial. And here we're picking up what operating system we want to install on our machine, which in our case, it's Windows 10 Pro. Azure Spot instance is outside the scope of this video, so we'll just leave it to no. And this is the size of the machine, so we'll just pick up standard D2S, as it's the only option available for us as a free user. And in here we are picking up the administrator account. It could be anything from 1 to 15 characters. It must not contain any special characters and must not be reserved by Azure, like the username admin. And next is the password. After that, we'll pick what network protocol we want to allow to be accessed through the internet, like in our case, the remote desktop protocol. We'll just leave the TCP port 3389. And in here, Azure is asking us if we have a license for our Windows image. And in our case, we don't, but it's okay, as we can buy a license later if we decide to keep this image. Now Azure is running the final validation for our configuration before building our machine. And we just passed the validation. This is the configuration that we've gave Azure, like the subscription group and the name of the machine, and what availability and what image and size and the rest of the configuration. And as you can see, there are some configuration that we didn't give to Azure, like the disk and networking and management. This is what Azure has gave us by default, as we just gave Azure the bare minimum configuration that is required. We can change that, of course, if we click on previous, but in our case, we'll just go ahead and create the machine. So click create to create the machine. And as you can see, Azure is now initializing the deployment of our virtual machine. And in a minute, we'll be moved to the virtual machine blade, where we'll start to see the deployment step by step. And we'll start to see what resources is Azure creating for our virtual machine, like the virtual network and the VM IP address and the network interface and the network security group and the storage account and so on. When Azure is finished creating all the resources, our deployment will be completed, as we can see here. And we can now go to our resource. If we click on go to resource, this is our virtual machine blade. And in here we can see our machine is running in the correct resource group. It's in the East US data center region. This is the utilization, the network and the CPU utilization of our machine. And now we'll try to connect to our machine using the remote desktop protocol that we left open in a previous step. We'll be using this IP address and the TCP port. When we click download RDP file, all our machine details will be downloaded. Click to open the RDP file, which will pop up a window for us to connect remotely to the machine. Choose use a different account to put the username, the administrator username that we've created earlier, and which is in my case Ahmed Mahi. And then when you finish up, click OK. This is the certificate warning telling us we cannot trust the remote machine, but we can ignore it as we are the one who created the virtual machine. And just like that, we are now connected to our virtual machine. Windows is just preparing our machine to be run for the first time. And this is the privacy setting. We'll just leave it as is. And this is our machine. It is connected to the internet. This is asking us if we want our machine to be discovered on the network, as it's the only VM. We don't want that. And as we can see, our machine is connected to the internet and running. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below. Finally, stay strong. Kia kaha.